All right, these problems are going to look a lot scarier than they really are. They also include quite a few steps more than we've been doing, so don't get bogged down in it. I will do my best to go slow. I will do my best to repeat myself a lot, and we'll just take it one piece at a time. So here's the deal. It is mathematically illegal for a radical to stay in the denominator. You can have it while you're working, but you cannot have it at the end for your answer. If it can't be divided like the previous lessons where we had like square root of 12 over the square root of 2 and it could divide down, then we have to manipulate this term in such a way that the radical will go away. All right? And we already know that a radical times itself will eliminate the radical. Here's the example we did. Square root of 2 times the square root of 4. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 equals the square root of 4, which is just 2. So when we multiply a radical by itself, it is eliminated. So what we're going to do, to eliminate the radical in the denominator, we can multiply the numerator and the denominator by the radical that's in the denominator. That's a lot of big words. So let's just do it and so you can see what we're doing. So let's say we start with 7 over the square root of 2. Now before we had a radical in the top and we could divide things down. In this case we do not. So what we're going to do, it is illegal to have a radical in the denominator. So if we multiply square root of 2 times itself, it will eliminate itself. However, the fraction rule, whatever you do to the bottom, in order to keep things balanced, you have to do the same thing to the top. So we're going to multiply the bottom by itself to eliminate the radical so that we can follow the mathematical rule that you can't have a radical in the bottom. But if I multiply the bottom by square root of 2, I have to multiply the top by square root of 2. 7 square root of 2 can't simplify, and the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. So this is my answer, which really doesn't look any easier, but that's the simplified form because of this statement right. I don't know why that arrow is crooked. That very first statement says we cannot have a radical in the denominator. So in order to not have a radical in the denominator, I'm going to manipulate the equation to eliminate the radical. Really, the best way to understand this is to just do a couple of these. So we have 3 over the square root of 5. There's nothing to divide here to simplify it. So all I can do is eliminate the radical in the denominator. To do that, I'm going to multiply it by itself. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. Now 3 square root of 5 cannot simplify any further, so that's going to stay. Square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 5. So what I have for my answer is 3 square root of 5 over 5. All right, let's look at the next one, 4 over the square root of 8. Again, there's no radical on the top, so I can't divide anything. So the only option I have is to multiply by square root of 8 because that's what's in the bottom. 4 square root of 8 can't simplify any further, so I'm going to leave it as 4 square root of 8. And then a square root of 8 times the square root of 8 is 8. Now, here is where things get a little bit messy. 5 is a prime number. It can't simplify. Square root of 5 doesn't have a whole number, so that one stays. However, 8 is not a prime number. There's not a whole number square root of 8, but I can break 8 up like we did last video. 2 and 2 become a pair. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to have 4 times the 2 I pulled out. Leftovers are going to stay. 4 times 2 is 8. Square root of 2. over 8. And then here we have to remember our fraction rules, because we have 8 over 8, which is 1, which just gives me 1 square root of 2. So here is where, while the mathematics of this is not difficult, there's a lot of steps here. So let me sort of write down some steps here. So number 1, multiply the denominator. Multiply top and bottom, because whatever you do to one side of a fraction, you have to do to the other side of the fraction. And then, if needed, break up the radical. On this one, we didn't break it up because there was nothing to break it up. On this one, we had to break the 8 up. And then simplify everything. What I mean by that was right here when we pulled that 2 out, we simplified everything. And then another if, I don't know why I circled that 3 and didn't circle the 1 or 2. If you can, you may have to reduce the fraction. This one, 8 over 8 reduced to 1. So the math of this is not hard. There's just a lot of steps. Let's do another one. All right, here's this one. 9 square root of 7 over square root of 8. Now here's a problem. We have 2 radicals, but 7 and 8 cannot be divided. They're not going to simplify. So that route's not going to work. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to multiply the bottom, top. 9 is a whole number by itself. Square root of 7 times the square root of 8 equals the square root of 56. 8 times a square root of 8 times the square root of 8 is just 8. Okay, now we're going to need to simplify, if we can, the fraction. Well, 9 over 8 is not going to simplify. So that's going to just stay just like that. Square root of 56, though. Square root of 56, let's see. 56 is going to be 2 times 28. 28 is going to be 2 times 14. 14 is 2 times 7. Let me see if that's right. 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. Good, 56. I have a pair of 2's here. I'm going to pull out my original 9. The 2 we're pulling out. The leftovers. All of that is over 8. 9 times 2 is 18. 2 times 7 is 14 over 8. Now, this can reduce. They're both even. They can both be divided by 2. 18 divided by 2 is going to be, let's work this direction so I have room. 18 divided by 2 is going to be 9. Radical stays. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So my totally solved answer is 9 square root of 14 over 4. Okay, we're going to work a couple of more of these together. I would really like for you to give these a shot, at least the first one, and then check it. And then do the second one if you need, and check it. And the third, check it. Fourth, and check it. So maybe instead of doing all 4 and then coming back and checking all 4, check one at a time. Okay, so pause it, do number 1, and then let's check it. All right, let's look at number 1. So we have 5 square root of 13. We're going to multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 13. 5 square root of 13 can't simplify any. Square root of 13 times the square root of 13 is just 13. And if I pull the fraction part out and just look at this, 5 over 13 cannot simplify. They're both prime numbers, which means, and I can't simplify this because it's a prime number. So for this problem, 5 square root of 13 over 13 is the answer. All right, do number 2. Let's check it. Multiply top and bottom by square root of 11. 7 and square root of 11 can't simplify any. 11, a square root of 11 times the square root of 11 is simply 11. And then nothing else here can simplify. 7 over 11 can't simplify. Square root of 11 can't simplify. So that's it. Now do number 3, and then we will work on it together. Number 3 here, and then I'll probably work 4 over there on the right side of the screen. What I'm going to do is multiply. This can't simplify. So the only option I have is to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 7. So now on the top, I have, on the top, I have 6. Square root of 5 times the square root of 7 is 35. Square root of 35. 7 times 7 is square root of 7 times the square root of 7 is 7. Now if I look at that fraction, 6 over 7, I can't simplify that. So that's going to stay. 35 is just going to be square root of 3 times the square root of 7. So technically that can't simplify. So there's that. Let's work number 4 over here. We have 8. I'm going to rewrite it over here so I can work with it. Multiply by the radical. 2 times 6 is 12. So what I have is 8 square root of 12 over 6. 12 can simplify. 2 times 2 times 3 over 6. This pair of 2's can pull out. All over 6. 8 times 2 is 16. Now 16 over 6 can reduce. They're both even. So I can divide them both by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 6 divided by 2 is 3. That is my answer. Now here's the thing. I have not worked all of your homework problems. If those first 3 are relatively simple, it's this 4th one that gets super tricky with all those steps. So if you get to some of these in homework and you get stuck, just shoot me a text and I'll help you walk through them.